All right, I believe I am streaming. There's usually a delay here, so I'm going to chill out for a second. We're getting started. I'm in a really, really bad mood. I'm just sick and tired of politics, man. You have no idea. Patreon has issued this statement today at some point on the banning of Sargon of Akkad, and it is complete and total BS. It is. Lies and PR. Why? Well, because Sam Harris pulled off the platform, and that was big news. Sam Harris is very famous and respected. He's been on Bill Maher. He's got one of the most popular podcasts, period. And he went, bye-bye, shut his account down. And I've been doing everything I can to mitigate the damage to my income and move people off platform. If you're just tuning in, I just started streaming. I have no idea what my plans are. I mean, watch, super chat, share, whatever. I'm in a really bad mood. I just went on a Twitter storm and decided, you know what? I'm going to tweet 500 things if I don't just do a live stream and talk about this. So people on Twitter probably won't see it. But what did they do? What did Patreon do? Well, they said, let's read through this. This is their statement. Some creators and patrons have questions regarding a removal of Sargon of Akkad for hate speech. Except Patreon sent people messages without solicitation, like Matt Christensen, for example. They even called me on the phone to talk about these issues. They are wrong and they are lying. This statement they put out is one thing. They are trying to use political ideology as a defense. In my opinion, Patreon has realized that they cannot win. They can't. They've done wrong. They're liars. And so what do they say? Well, you know what? Purge these people anyway and just double down on this intersectional ideology. Well, I'll tell you what. All you did is piss me off more. You know, I'll say this. I want to read this, but I want to say something. I really thought Patreon was going to be smart about this. And you might think smart means they apologize, reinstate Sargon, and say, look, we're going to issue a warning on this matter. No. In the world of PR, smart would be shut up. Sit down and shut up. One of the most effective PR strategies for problems like this. And I'm being serious. You wait for it to all blow over. That's what they usually do. I thought Patreon was going to do that. I thought they were going to say nothing and just wait for it to all blow over. Because admittedly, it would. But I guess they couldn't help but screw up even more. By issuing this statement, they have done one thing. Now, I know their goal, the one reason they did it, was to try and hide behind political ideology. But the real reason they published this is because they are in panic mode. They are in full panic mode, and they're trying to deal with the bad PR that keeps coming out. Why? I made a video about it when it happened. Sargon made a video about it when it happened. All of these videos got a ton of attention. Dave Rubin has issued statements about it. Jordan Peterson. Finally, after a statement by Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin announcing they were going to make some kind of alternative, Sam Harris leaves. I'll tell you what I think happens then. I think Jack Conte and others, realizing they've lost, said, well, look, if these guys are going to make their own platform anyway, let's double down on the ideology and just cut them out. They probably realize there's no point anymore. I'm trying to leave. Jordan Peterson, Dave, Sam Harris are leaving. They've lost. That's it. It's over. So what do? They issue this statement to double down. But it's a lie. It is a straight lie. Now, here's what I'm not going to do. I am not going to publish the accounts of people who have broken the rules on Patreon because I am not an advocate for banning these people. And as I stated in my last stream, what Patreon will do is feign ignorance and go, oh, but we didn't know. We didn't know about the problem. So then I was just checking to make sure the audio working. Then what they'll do is start deleting the accounts that I highlight. So no. If Patreon can't do a simple search of their own platform, then they got serious problems, okay? Let me take some of the super chats just to... Someone said, I wonder if they'll remove Monkey Jones. Yeah, that's disconcerting. We'll read through this after I read some of these super chats, because when the super chats build up, it gets really hard to read through them all. So we have... Working to be self-sufficient says, hey Tim, F the tech monopoly giants, here. Johnny Goldmain says, love from New Zealand, thank you for the super chat. Ethan Long, another Tim live stream. Is it going to be a more regular thing? It will be for channel members. I'm going to be doing maybe 2 live streams per month if you are a channel member. So this will be like for, here's the big challenge. Patreon really is, it's a good service. It is. Don't get me wrong. It's actually one of the best services for doing monthly subscriptions in this way. but they are twisted and evil people, in my opinion. And I don't use evil lightly. I wouldn't have said evil a week ago. I wouldn't have said evil 5 hours ago. But I read this, and this says to me they are evil. Because this is PR jargon lies. Lies, 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 lies. And it's funny because you can actually look at the context of what Sargon said, because they include it, and realize what Sargon was trying to do. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't like Sargon's use of the slur and what he was trying to do. I understand what he did, right? He was trying to use the language of these people against them to make them angry, because they were making him angry. So he was looking for the deepest cut. Look, I think it was a bad strategy. It didn't work, and this is the result you get. But the problem I have is that Patreon are liars. It is asymmetrical enforcement. If you do a search on Patreon, pick a racial slur. I did. And you know what? I found like 8 pages of racial slurs. It took me less than a minute to find Holocaust denial anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that used hate speech. It took me minutes to find people glorifying self-harm and school shootings. It took me minutes to find multiple instances where people used racial slurs against other people and laughed about it. So you want to tell me, Patreon, that you got a problem with hate speech when your platform is loaded with tons of it? You are lying to me. Patreon is pissing on us and telling us it's raining. This is what their game is. So they issued this PR statement, which I should probably read, so let me read it. They say, "We take a strong stance against hate speech and want to make sure everyone has the full context regarding this removal." Oh, the full context? How about anyone? I encourage you all to search for racial slurs on Patreon, because I'm sure they're doing damage mitigation now. But Eric Weinstein did this, and he instantly found tons of racial slurs. And when I saw that, I said, no way. Is Patreon really that daft? Are they so inept? They don't actually search their own content for rule breakers, yet somehow, on a 10-month-old stream, 1 hour into a live stream, they found that one statement they could take out of context to ban Sargon of Akkad. Yeah, it sounds targeted. Now, people are saying that it was, the alt-right and far-right people, whatever, that submitted this information to Patreon to get Sargon banned. Sure, that makes sense. I really doubt Patreon did all of this investigation on their own. The point is, are you telling me Patreon knows and allows their platform to be weaponized by activists and doesn't even search their own site for rule breakers? Why would you ban Sargon over this if you don't ban the dozens of other people who do worse? There is literally a page fundraising trying to push Holocaust denial anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that uses racial slurs, that uses ethnic slurs. You actually have Antifa accounts calling for physical violence and insurrection, even stating their goal is to arm people to get physically violent. Yet that is fine. I found a page where someone was fundraising to commit a lethal self-harm. I'm trying to avoid certain words. They wanted to buy the tools, apparently. I don't know what the point was. Maybe it was a joke. Sure, maybe it was dark comedy. Why wasn't that banned? It took me like a minute to find it. Why wasn't it banned? Because Patreon is lying to everybody. And you know what I've seen? I've seen people who have nothing to do with this taking the brunt of it. Let's read the statement. Before getting into the specifics, I'd like to warn you that there is some inflammatory language. In an interview on another creator's YouTube channel, Sargon said, "I just can't be bothered with people who choose to treat me like this. It's really annoying, like you're acting like a bunch of N-word. Just so you know, you act like white N-word. Exactly how you describe black people acting is the impression I get dealing with the alt-right. I'm just not in the mood to deal with this kind of disrespect." He went on, "Look, you carry on, but don't expect me to leave and don't expect me to then have a debate with one of your F word. Like, why would I bother? Maybe you're just acting like an N-word. Mate, have you considered that? Do you think white people act like this? White people aren't meant to be polite and respectful to one another, and you guys can't even act like white people. It's really amazing to me." I do not like this statement from Sargon of Akkad. I don't. I think I see what he was doing. It looks like he was really angry and frustrated and trying to find something. I think he should have thought through this. He shouldn't use this language. And I gotta admit, it's not that hard to not use racial slurs. However, I also believe in forgiveness, and I also believe in warnings. But more importantly, I can say this. You know what? When I first saw this statement from Sargon, I said, well, I kind of understand why Patreon would ban him over this. But then I started to look into the finer details, like this isn't listed on their rules. So let's put it this way. If Patreon says, our rules are that hate shouldn't be on Patreon. That's what it says. It actually says that. And then it says, if you find something on Patreon, alert us. That would mean, and based on what Jack Condi's own statement was on the Rubin report, it has to be on the platform. Okay, if that's the case, then Sargon likely didn't know this would get him in trouble. How can you punish someone if you didn't have an agreement with them on what they can or can't do? Because Sargon certainly didn't break the law. I understand the argument ignorance isn't a defense of breaking the law, but this is rules between two businesses coming to a mutual agreement on how to make money. Okay, the appropriate response, warning. Sargon, we're letting you know off-platform behavior counts. We found this was brought to our attention. Therefore, don't do it again. Sargon would be like, sure, no problem. No problem. But the main issue goes beyond that. Because I can understand why this is bad for the brand of Patreon and can put them at risk. Look what happened to Subscribestar. They lost Stripe and PayPal over a hint of activist aggression. So I can see that Patreon faces something similar. And I know this is true. So they can have my sympathy there that they are getting berated by activists and take action. However, this is bending the knee to an extreme degree. What the real problem is that these activists didn't go after Patreon when Sargon was on the platform for years. They went after Subscribestar and damaged the income and careers of people who have nothing to do with this. They are now helping these awful, terrifying psychopaths in their sociopathic, fascistic behavior of taking away someone's income for having a bad opinion. More importantly, Patreon is lying. This is where they drive me. This is why I'm angry right now. The reason I'm streaming, the reason I'm ranting, the reason I am pissed to an extreme degree is because they keep lying about it. Go to Patreon. Do a search for the most ridiculous thing you can think of. Maybe use quotes. I had to put some phrases in quotes. I put some phrases in there. Some common memes that are considered offensive. And I found them easily. You mean to tell me that they couldn't type in a racial slur to their own search engine? So I'll say it one more time. I don't like the statement that Sargon made. I think it's wrong. Plain and simple. I think Sargon was acting out of anger and should have thought through this better. I'm also not surprised that he's getting flack because of it, for sure. I also think that in this age, we need to make sure we allow for forgiveness. Not only that, if Patreon really wanted to curb hate speech, they were in the perfect position to do so. Because they could have said, Sargon, don't say this word again. Otherwise, we'll terminate your account. You know what would have happened? Sargon would have been like, okay, and then Sargon would never say the word again. But you've removed him, and you've removed all incentives to clean up his act. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Sargon understands, and I would assume he would probably do his best to avoid this kind of language in the future, and in his video he actually did bleep it. I think what's unfair here is that clearly he made a mistake. Many people have made mistakes. And what we do is we give them another chance. Pencils have erasers, plain and simple, but they don't want to do this. And then they want to lie to us all day and night. The reason why it goes beyond just this issue of Sargon making a mistake is because of all of the different accounts on their own platform they don't care about. They don't. What does that mean? It means their platform is a weapon for activists. They will lure you in. They will say, come to us. We've got a great place where you can build a career. They wait until you've done just well enough and got enough people on the platform and then go, boop, sorry, goodbye. It's almost like they're activists who are doing everything in their power to destroy the incomes of people who are politically motivated. Let's read on. Some people worry that we are reviewing content not posted on Patreon. True. As a funding platform, we don't host much content, but we help fund creators across the internet. As a result, we review creations posted on other platforms that are funded through Patreon. Sargon is well known for his collaborations with other creators, so we apply our community guidelines to those collaborations, including this interview. Not in your rules. Not in your rules. How can you punish someone for an agreement you never made with them? And more importantly, we don't post much content. The function of Patreon is literally to post locked premium content that people can pay for by selecting a tier. I can lock my posts to patrons only. That means I can make content for people who are buying that content from me. You want to talk about not posting content here? You said on Patreon, Jack. You said it. Oh, you changed your rules? Fine. By all means, change your rules, but give us notice. Because what you've just said to the entire Patreon community is plain and simple. It's clear. It's clear as day. That you will abruptly change your rules without listing them, without notifying anybody, and then on a whim, you will terminate the livelihood of commentators. Why? One time they said some bad words. Really. There's no forgiveness. You are a part of these authoritarian nutjob mobs that want to destroy the lives of people for making one or two mistakes. And that is unconscionable. Pencils have erasers. It's an old saying. Why? Because people make mistakes all the time. This is Sargon. making one mistake one time. One mistake one time. Okay, I think you should say to Sargon, apologize, don't do it again. It's that easy. But this is the terrifying world we live in, where they will wait, they will hide, and as soon as they find that ammo, the obscure channel with 4,000 followers, that an hour into the stream we found that word, boop, it's a lie. It's all a lie. Their platform is loaded with hate speech. So if you're on the left, I'll say this. Sure, if you want to be happy that Sargon was banned, by all means, you're allowed to have your opinion. But I would also ask you, why is it that so many other accounts are getting away with much, much worse? That's my problem. The rules aren't enforced symmetrically. I have no trust in their trust and safety team to actually be fair to me when someone comes after me. So why would I want to be on your platform? They say, in our community guidelines, we state that we don't allow hate speech. Part of how we define hate speech in those policies is hate speech includes serious attacks or even negative generalizations of people based on their race and sexual orientation. So what you're saying is that Sargon turned a word back on the alt-right, or he says they're alt-right, and that is what's wrong, is that he was insulting, Nazis with racial slurs. I shouldn't say Nazis. We'll say alt-right, whatever. I don't know who these people are. When reviewing an account of potential hate speech violation, we consider some of the following questions. Is the creator using racial slurs or negative depictions of a protected class? In this case, Sargon used racial slurs to insult others and specifically linked those slurs with negative generalizations of behavior. He said how you describe people. Understand? I don't even want to defend the language Sargon used, but clearly you're misrepresenting what happened, in contrast to how people of other races act. He also used a slur related to sexual orientation to generally insult others. Oh, please. You ever go to a skate park? You ever go to anywhere in the city? If you think that's if that's a bannable offense, you better ban half the internet. But the reality is they're liars. Liars. Taken in whole with all of the context, this violates our community guidelines. We understand some people don't believe in the concept of hate speech and don't agree with Patreon removing creators on the grounds of violating our community guidelines for using hate speech. We have a different view. Patreon does not and will not condone hate speech in any of its forms. Lies! 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 How many of you have gone to Patreon already and found all of the racial slurs? Or maybe now they're in panic mode and doing cleanup. I would expect them to do it. I would hope they would do it. We stand by our policies against hate speech. Clearly you don't. That is a lie. This, I will state definitively, is a lie. Because I think any reasonable person could conclude you can't stand by a policy if you allow people to spout racial slurs all across your platform. We believe it's essential for Patreon to have strong policies against hate speech to build a safe community for our creators and their patrons. Lies. I would say this. Patreon knows they've lost. Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson announced their plan to launch competition. They are not dealing with an issue of saving face anymore. They are dealing with an issue of combating with another company. What do? The last paragraph. We believe strongly in opposing hate speech. Yes, hate speech as a concept is very simple for people to understand. It is speech that targets or derides or incites to violence against a protected class. Very simple to understand. In the United States, it is protected under the First Amendment, except for calls to violence. You're allowed to disparage people and say racial slurs as a matter of the First Amendment. However, Patreon does not believe in free speech. That's the distinction. We look. You believe hate speech exists. It's a fact. It's just whether or not law should exist based on hate speech. You can clearly define what hate speech is, and unfortunately there's many different interpretations of what constitutes hate speech. Therein lies one of the bigger problems. But yes, the simple idea is that it is a thing. So of course you believe in it. Sure, I agree. I believe it exists too. I just think you guys are hypocritical liars who support hate speech unless it's someone you personally don't like. Plain and simple. Now I've got a bunch of super chats that I gotta read through. Man, I'm super angry. You think you can tell I'm really angry? I hope you can tell I'm really angry. All right, let's reading through super chats is really difficult because the thing shoots forward. And Sean Rufus, Merry Christmas, Tim. Can't stick around. I'm working. Close my Patreon account. We'll be supporting you on your own page. Let me say this too. If you happen to be someone who is a patron of mine, here's what you can do. Timcast.com/donate. It should be in the description of many of my videos. I think, unfortunately, this one might still have Patreon in it. No, this one has Subscribestar. I'm going to change that. Because Subscribestar, unfortunately, got shut down by these psychopaths. So I'm changing it to donate. Hopefully it updates. I don't know if it will. But you can go to timcast.com/donate. And you can also, underneath this video is a join button. You might not get it on some browsers, but if you click that, it's $5 a month. It's actually one of the worst cuts for any donation. Like if you do direct PayPal, I get the majority of your donation. If you do channel membership, for every $5, I get $3.50. So just being straight up, if you want to do it, by all means you can. It grants you like ad-free viewing on my channel, I think. And I'm going to be doing member-only live streams. I am trying to figure out how to create an email list through PayPal so that I can email notify everybody when I do the exclusive live streams, because it's for everybody. It's supposed to be like a private bonus where there's like almost 4,000, there's 3,600 people watching right now, so it's hard to read through all the comments, but with the member-only, PayPal-only thing, then it's going to be much more, it's a couple hundred people probably, right? Maybe not this many. But you can support me that way if you want to get off Patreon. And I got to tell you, man, before I did the stream, I actually had my finger on the delete my Patreon. Like, I was ready to go and just terminate. And here's the problem. Here's why I didn't do that. I still have about 1,100 patrons. 700 have moved over. Unfortunately, many moved to Subscribestar, which was then deplatformed by the crypto fascist types, the far left statists. And so that may recover. They may find a new system. I don't know. There are still people on Patreon who have no idea what's going on. There are many who said they're waiting for the cycle to end before leaving. But there are a decent amount of people, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but typically older people who just don't follow and don't know how to do it, what to do. And I've gotten some messages and I've tried to work people through this. But admittedly, 1,100 people, I've sent out an email. I can't reach all of them. And that means if I just shut it down right now, there's going to be a lot of people who are confused and don't understand what's going on. So right now, my Patreon account, for one, it's risky for me to just abruptly just shut down my income. But it's also an issue of this is the only direct way I have to get a message to these last remaining 1,100 people. And so what I'm going to be doing as I move forward, every video I post will actually, instead of the normal copy that I write, the body explaining the video, it will instead be a statement about you need to get off Patreon because I will be terminating this account. I have no interest in a hypocritical group of liars that take people's incomes away. They did it to Lawrence Southern. Now, when they deplatformed Lawrence Southern, it was bad. It sent ripples across Patreon. People who had nothing to do with politics were losing patrons. But they had an argument. They did. And hear me out. Lauren Southern did get on a boat and engage in a very specific type of activism, and she did express her desire to get in front of this migrant ship. She didn't actually do it. And this was one of the biggest problems Patreon had because they claimed she did. And when I talked to them, they said she did. And I said, no, she didn't. She literally did. They said, if only she was in the boat and waving a sign, that would have been fine. I said, that's literally what they did. They never got in front of him. But there was still intent. She says it in the stream. So then it's tough. It's like, man, to not give her a warning is the big problem. You need to say, here's a warning. Don't do anything like this again. And they said they would do it. They did. And I said, okay, they're going to issue warnings to people. That's what we need to do. We need a strike system. We need warnings. And what did they do with Sargon? Bye-bye. No warning. None. And his appeal process was, let us know why you think this wasn't hate speech. How can you prove an interpretation? You can't. You can state your case for sure, but that's what Patreon wanted. And I think it was a waste of time. It was them pretending to go through the motions. Look, I have no reason to believe anything Patreon says because their platform is full of hate speech. Platform is literally a site that supports hate speech. There, I said it. You know why? I think it's a definitive statement at this point. If they're going to ban Sargon and claim they banned him for hate speech, okay, sounds like it's evidence to the contrary, that they actually don't like hate speech. But hold on. If they're going to ban Sargon for hate speech, but not ban all of these other channels, well, then I can only conclude one of two things. They don't know how to browse their own platform, which would be weird. Who would believe that? And not only that, they don't know how to search for words, or they're fine with the hate speech. So I can only conclude Patreon actually supports the hate speech. For real. I mean, they're getting money. Many of these channels are small, and they probably think, you know what, no one's going to complain about these tiny channels. And the only reason they get rid of Sargon is because he's high profile. Let me read through some more super chats, because it's building up. Alan McGowan says, I feel this was a long con by Patreon. Get creators to use your payment site. Use the site to purge wrongthink. Use normie patrons as shields. Yeah, I think you said that before I got into it, so credits to Alan McGowan for that. The Thing, Triple O says, wish I could delete my Patreon again. Taylor says, Angry Tim is the best Tim. Coco Forkosh says, Merry Christmas, good work. RG Bargy said, get a life, but then sent me a emoji of a beer and 20, I believe that's Norwegian crowns. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't drink. I don't. and I make 4 videos per day, but I'm building this van for a mobile production studio so that I can do short stints, like drive to LA, drive to Seattle, and then come back to base. This way I'll be able to do more on-the-ground reporting, launch a 3rd channel, or 4th channel actually, because this breaking news stuff will probably be the Subverse channel. We'll see what happens. Tom King says, Geeks Plus Gamers just announced they're leaving too. Wow. Okay, I need to check into that, because I don't know about that, but if that's big, because that's apolitical, okay? Maybe it's political to a certain degree, but games and geeks? Reverend Dave says, if Patreon wants to go full Puritan, that may be bad news for the cosplay thoughts and titty streamers. Yes, absolutely. I mean, they already banned porn, right? They don't allow it. Mike NYC says, I think Sargon did us all a favor by triggering Patreon. This will be all for the best. I made a joke earlier when, Sargon, he actually sent me this statement saying, hey, heads up. I made a joke to him earlier that I never would have imagined that the culture war escalation, with all of these big names getting outraged and pulling out, that Sargon would be essentially the Franz Ferdinand of the great Patreon war, of the culture war escalation. And I mean it, I'm being facetious, obviously. I don't think it's that serious. But I just thought it would be hilarious to see like a cartoon or something where Sargon's minding his own business, like speaking at Freedom Corner, and then Patreon, takes him out like World War II, like France, was that World War I? I don't know, whatever. It's a joke. Vent, hello, thanks for the super chat. Bill Ray says, shout out to Hard Bastard live in 40 minutes. Okay. I don't know who Hard Bastard is, and I don't want to get PewDiePied, so I'll just say it's a super chat. Working to be self-sufficient says, everything, Empyrean Cypher everything. I got to be careful about some of these super chats, because often when we do these streams, we'll just read them, and some people like to come in and then post, like, anti-Semitic things and racist things to make you read it. Someone said, Secret Hitler stream on Timcast Games channel, good way to take a break. Hit me on Discord. So I bought a game called Secret Hitler, and it's hilarious. It is a hidden identities game where you're either a liberal or a fascist, because don't forget, conservative doesn't exist. You're either liberal or you're a fascist. Those are the options of the game, and this is why I think it's hilarious. And that's why I bought it. The creators deserve my money for this game. It's hilarious. Because there comes a point, the goal of the game is to stop the fascists from winning. Or if you're a fascist, you want to win. If you're a liberal, you want to win. And somebody is secretly Hitler. The best part of the game is that there's a presidential power called execution. And in the game, you can actually have liberals. You get a card with your identity, liberal or fascist. Liberals in the game. This is Will Wheaton did a promo for this video. I saw it on Amazon, and he said, if you're a liberal, you might get the ability to execute your political opponents. But if you execute too many, the fascists will gain voting majority. So hold on. This is a game where people who claim to be liberals will actually end the lives of other liberals out of a fear of a secret Hitler. I believe there's no better mirror, reflection of the real world. Like, look at what happened in, I don't know if you guys saw my video, look what happened in Philly. These 2 Marines were visiting historical landmarks in Philly. 10 or 12 Antifa show up. They said, are you proud? And the guy goes, I'm a Marine. And then they said, are you Proud Boys? And the one guy goes, I don't know what a Proud Boy is. So what do? They started beating on him. 2 Marines got beaten up by 10 or 12 Antifa, and they were just visiting landmarks in Philly. They don't care. They're willing to beat innocent people. They're willing to go that far if it means finding that one secret fascist. Let's read some more. Third Wave Red Pill says, welcome to the crypto party, everyone. We're already building the need. Yeah, Dave Rubin apparently just added Bitcoin to his donation system, and the Bitcoin community is like cheering. Look, people often talk about how there's no real use of cryptocurrency. It's just a high risk, trading system for people to get rich quick as a gamble. But I think we've known this. Crypto has been very important for people who are deplatformed. Crypto is probably the safest way to send money to someone over the internet. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in, fintech or anything like that. But you think about, these platforms that remove people, that shut down businesses, and yeah, maybe it's safer to use crypto. Ghost L says, Tim, can we nominate you for an award? I guess. I don't know what award. I mean, Desperado says, why are we seeing such a strong backlash against Patreon, but a minimal backlash against YouTube with all of the S they do? Now, YouTube's not that bad. YouTube has done things that are pretty bad, but YouTube really is the best of the big tech companies, and that's not saying they're good. Like, I think I think I'm grateful that I can use this platform and fundraise and make videos and have a career, for sure. Overall, YouTube is a huge net positive. That doesn't mean we should excuse the bad things they do, because then the platform will get bad. It'll become useless. But when you look at Twitter and Facebook, I would say Twitter is the worst. Actually, no, I would say Patreon is the worst. No, wait, Twitter and Patreon, man, they're close. They're probably tied. I can't figure it out. Facebook actually banned a bunch of feminists for disparaging white men, which was hilarious and terrifying because I don't agree with any of the censorship. But they were actually using violent. It was facetious calls to violence. So, okay, yeah, that I understand. But YouTube actually allows, look, let's be real. YouTube does allow full-on racists to make videos justifying their racism. They do put a lot of restrictions on a lot of these videos, but they don't ban the accounts who do it. They put them in limited state mode. And I gotta say, like, you gotta admit, you could never do that on TV or the radio. So YouTube, they do give a lot of leeway to some pretty abhorrent ideas and things that I don't like. But let's read on. Cormoran says, no more questions, just disabling my account. I hear you, man. Good work researching Patreon, Tim. Philip Martinovich says, light blue. Donsk Macabre says, hang in there. Joanne Peeler, has Jack Conte made any statement since Sargon's deplatforming? No, but this statement we have is from Medium. It was posted by Jacqueline Hart. This is the woman who called me on the phone and then said the nonsense of talking to me about Sargon's ban. We don't comment on other creators' channels or accounts or whatever. And I'm like, what? You're literally commenting on Sargon right now. And then they later changed it to say, oh no, we don't comment on other channels who haven't been banned or something like that. Adam Conrad says they have angered the beanie, quite literally. Rando number 9 says, I hate that Naomi Wu got caught up in this. Patreon banned her, and now that she went to Subscribestar, they got her again. And she's a really good example of how the far left doesn't care that innocent people are being affected by this. They don't. They hate one person, Sargon. So what did they do? They rallied together and got over 100 people damaged by this. They lied and claimed everyone there was alt-right. Are you joking? Most of the people are not alt-right, neither is Sargon. Man, it's so, look, you see, I hope you all watched PewDiePie's video today because it was fantastic. I watched PewDiePie's video and I was almost like, wow, this is similar to what my videos are like when I criticize Vox for lying about people. I feel like I made basically the same video. Oh, let's keep reading. SpongeBob, but with Sud says, wrong think is reality now, Tim, and you're next. Well, look, I'll be honest, I'm not next. I'm not saying it's far off, but there are certainly many people in front of me. Many people, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to draw any, attention to them, but there are much bigger channels who say much more controversial things than I do. Michael P. says, Merry Christmas, Tim. My fellow Canadian Jordan Peterson is working on a solution for you. That's what I hear. And I think that's where the statement comes from. They feel like they've lost already. If we're all planning on leaving and setting up competition, then they're probably like, good, get rid of them. We lost. End of story. Just, we'll side with... So here's what's going to happen. Patreon is going to become like an SJW platform. Because if geeks and gamers go to the Patreon subreddit and there are people saying, man, I don't even make political content, and I'm losing patrons over this. Richard Aaron says, Geeks and Gamers had a lot of good things to say about you in his live stream and advised people to subscribe to you. Hey, appreciate it, Geeks and Gamers. Not familiar with your channel, but I always appreciate compliments. And admittedly, I definitely appreciate criticism. And here's what I'll say. I appreciate the people on the left who have honest opinions of me and criticize me and hate me. By all means, please hate me if I've done something you don't like. That is what your right is. And if I don't hear the criticisms, I can't improve as a person. What I don't like are the people who constantly lie about me because that's the only method they have to try and harm my career. So lying is wrong. Be honest about it. But by all means, be honest when you hate me. That's all I ask. Working to be self-sufficient. Karasin Futchus says, you're the only hot liberal there is. Yes, I want to elaborate on this while I have your attention. I am a social liberal. That means something very simple. You can search for it on Wikipedia. I read the Wikipedia entry for social liberal. I'm like, man, that does hit me spot on, doesn't it? It means I believe there is a role for government in healthcare and infrastructure and energy and regulation. To what extent? Well, that's a different story. But it's typically a center-left position. And what that means is, first of all, I believe there are huge corruption issues across all sectors of government that need to be fixed. I don't think that the problem is government itself. I think corruption is the problem. And I'm relatively centrist, but I do lean left. And what that means is I like the idea of a mixed economy. Socialism is nuts. Socialism monopolizes power like that, and then you end up with a failed economy, because capitalism works much, much better in determining the needs of the people quickly. Every time they try and do a command economy where a small group of individuals determine what should be made and what shouldn't be, there's not enough brain power. You've got hundreds of millions of people now, and you're never going to do it. Here's the problem with laissez-faire capitalism. It ends up becoming corporate dictatorship. There has to be some system in place. So with that regard, I'm absolutely willing to listen to people who are moderate leftists, who are like social democrats, people like Bernie Sanders, and I'm willing to listen to people who are libertarian, who believe government should have a role in protecting certain things, but it's more about the free market. I happen to fall slightly center left, and most of my politics do as well. The other thing is, on the spectrum, I'm libertarian. This is hard mode, okay? This means I would prefer a cooperative system over a competitive system, but I do recognize there is a need for some competition, especially in advancing technologies and improving the quality of life for everybody. I just wish that we could all agree to pitch in for some things to create a safety net that works free of corruption. And what that means is, as a left libertarian, the only way to accomplish this is to be honest and convince people to pitch in. It's basically me trying to sell an idea to you. Hey, would you like to form this group with me where we all pitch in a couple bucks to make sure that no one ever falls short in this way and that way? And this will be our space. And this can be accomplished in the private sector for sure. But then you still need a government to make sure that people aren't being taken advantage of. So it's complicated. It is. I think left libertarian is probably the hardest position in terms of politics, because authoritarianism, easy. You just take it from people. And free market capitalism, not the easiest, but still easier, because now you have a chance to just be unabated and just do whatever you want. Left libertarian, you have to win the hearts and minds, and that's the big challenge. But that's genuine. That's real. Authoritarianism isn't real. You're just forcing people to do things. No one likes what you're doing. Free market capitalism is fine for the most part, but what happens is certain things run amok. When you look at completely unchecked free market, we end up with, there's a saying that I think is really important. I can't remember who said this. They said, if we ever shake hands with aliens, it will be not because we've overcome nuclear weapons, but because we've overcome the Xbox. And the point of the statement is that in a complete free market, all we do is produce things that satisfy our base desires. And we need to think somewhat beyond that. If all we did was make video games and chocolate candy and porno, we would eventually die out because we consume all the resources, and that would be the end of it. There needs to be some planning. That's why I like a mixed economy. But there you go. There's me explaining why I'm a liberal. John Kerry says, I'm glad you're defending Sargon. I've heard him mention a few times. But it's not even necessarily about defending Sargon. I can criticize what he said. I don't like what he said, plain and simple. But I believe in forgiveness. I believe the only way to change, look, if you don't like what Sargon said and you don't want him to say it again, there's one way you do that. You say, Sargon, would you do me a favor? Would you not say that again? And they'll be like, yeah, sorry, mate. It's that easy. It's like, think about, you've got a friend over at your house, and they go in your fridge and they grab your last Pepsi and they crack it up and start drinking it. What do? Do you kick them out of your house? No, that's kind of extreme, right? There's still a net benefit for you being friends. Like, Patreon cut off their nose to spite their face. They lost income themselves because they got rid of them. No, you say to your friend, it's like, dude, that was my last Pepsi, man. Could you please not take my Pepsi without asking? And he'd probably go, oh yeah, sorry about that, dude. I'll replace it for you. Isn't that how human beings work? What is going on in this soy punk dystopia where people are like, words? Ah! Look, I don't like the words. I understand that they're upsetting to some people, and look, sometimes people got to grow up, and these things happen in the real world. But I also recognize that Patreon is a business and has to protect themselves too. So it's plain and simple. Patreon and Sargon have an agreement with each other. We are going to make money together. With your help, I can make money, and I will cut you in. That means the appropriate response is one of, hey, dude, please don't do that again. Right? Am I wrong? I think I'm being completely rational here. Let's read some more. Gonna abort my Patreon subscription faster than when Sargon... Oh, I'm not gonna read that. That's crazy. That's rando number 9. No, not allowed. And once again, I think... Once you get to a certain point... I said this last time. Once you get to a certain point in the super chats, it just skips everything, and then I can't read them. So it's like... I lost all of it. Apologies. Let me see if I can... Okay. Sven Erickson says, not paying on Patreon anymore, but you deserve some money. Not saying that YouTube is better, but wink. Hey, appreciate it. Asim Masood Bahu, go on Asim's channel. Go on Asim's channel, please. I'm actually going to not do any collaborations. I'm just completely over it. I'm thinking of doing more. If I'm going to do anything, it's going to be physical speaking events, and I'm going to keep to myself. I'm going to make my own channel, and it's all like I don't know. It's complicated. Sven Erickson says respect. Donovan says awesome work, appreciate it. Zanzi, this incident exposes a weakness in the free market. Subversive ideology can convince multiple business owners to act arbitrarily and then collude to save face when the market kicks back. Yep. Primus, thanks for the super chat. James Pierce, you're a point of light in the world of darkness and irrationality. You have continuously fettered my views from becoming too radicalized, moving my subscription to support you off Patreon. I appreciate it. I said something similar to Boogie. I don't know if you guys probably know who Boogie is. I think Boogie tries to be rational and calm and try and calm people down. And he's gotten so much flack for it. That's just a bummer. Darth Bobcat says, I can confirm Geeks and Gamers quit. Wow. Were they big? Did they have a big number? That's crazy. Ryan Black says, is there any way to send under tier 1? Was hoping to give $5 a month. YouTube channel memberships are $5 a month. It's just, man, it's so complicated to constantly try and change all these different systems. Patreon really is a good service in that you can give whatever you want. You can pick a tier, and it charges everybody on the first of the month, which is really, really important. PayPal does not do that, so then all these donations come in randomly, and I can't budget effectively. But Patreon has become a completely unusable service with how they treat their clients, plain and simple. Anonymous says, sorry, can't give more. Do you think these companies will get successfully sued over taking free speech anytime soon? Nothing seems to be happening. Here's the bad news, everybody. These companies are immune under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. I think that's what it's called. There's one argument that I kind of understand. These private platforms, they're entities entities unto themselves. That means everything Twitter publishes is Twitter's speech. That means everything you post to Twitter is also Twitter saying, what did you say? Okay, I'm going to yell that for you. Look at it this way. Imagine Twitter's a dude, and you walk up and say, you got a really loud voice. Can you yell, I like pizza? And he goes, you got it, buddy. Yells really loud, I like pizza. Everyone can hear it. That's effectively how the courts see Twitter. What that means is, if someone walks up to this guy and says, hey, can you say something racist? He's going to be like, no, dude, I'm not going to yell that. And then he says, that's not fair. You're doing it for everyone else. What about my free speech? So the courts get involved and say, look, we can't force this person to publish what you want him to publish. We can't do that. It's his speech, and we can't compel someone to speak. That is the main defense of why they can basically just ban whoever they want. Even Patreon, which is a financial service, because they allow posting, they get away with it. Not only that, the law is actually pretty vague, and it calls them digital web services. Yeah, that's basically everybody, but let's read on. Onio Odan says, innocent comment, what you can read. That you can read. Maximan and Cheese, they consistently tell us to make our own platforms and then get shut down. They don't want us to talk, they want us to disappear. When discussion is no longer an option, other means become normalized. Razorfist had a really interesting video about this. But yeah, isn't it fascinating that they say, this is a private company, if you don't like it, make your own. Okay, so people do, and then they chase you down and destroy all of your business relationships with lies. How about that? Snark Victory says, Secret Hitler guys made a game in human conditions. Interesting. Sven Erickson says, crypto is too volatile to be viable. That's not true. Minds.com, M-I-N-D-S, they've got a crypto system. Admittedly, their tokens aren't particularly valuable, but I've probably generated over the past year and a half of posting every day $200. And it's an interesting system. The tokens you generate from being a part of the community are used to buy essentially ad space. You can boost your post. And that's how, look, Facebook, Twitter, they're all ad driven, Google. So look at it this way. Here's the way I see it. If you're Pepsi and you want access to the Minds audience, you need tokens. You have to buy tokens, and that produces value. Admittedly, you're not going to build a big career off of it. You can actually make a career on YouTube, but I think Minds is still doing something really interesting where it shows that crypto is actually viable. And I don't know if you can do this now, but you used to be able to send tokens to people on a regular basis. And if the tokens can be exchanged for cash, you've essentially got a system. So what I explained to people when they use crypto for this, I said, listen, liquefy, convert 80% of your crypto every month, hold 20%. Keep your USD because it's your main source of income, but use crypto as a means of instantaneous transaction. That's about it. And that 20% you have, it's at risk, but then if the crypto booms in value, you want to catch some of that. So I always advise 80-20 because it's so volatile, you don't want to lose that much. And if you cash out your tokens as soon as you get them, you're always getting a perfect ratio for the dollar. So if someone says, I'm going to give you $1 worth of crypto, and you cash out as soon as you get it, you're basically still getting your dollar. If you hold on to it for a long time, the price can change, good or bad. That's a risk. That's something else. Hoa Marta Sanfins, thank you for the super chat. Merv Johnson says, you have more integrity than 99% of journalists today. Thank you for giving me news, I think you meant to say, I can trust. And I'll say this too. I use mainstream media sources. But there's a couple things that I do. For one, I read Vox, I read BuzzFeed. I will take certain things that I think are trustworthy and criticize them when they do things that are wrong. But for the most part, when I read a story every morning about something happening, I'll read like 5 versions of it and then compare them and try and figure out where the holes are. CNN television, pretty bad. Fox News television can be pretty bad, but at this point, I'm shocked to say that I think Fox News is actually doing a better job than CNN. Admittedly, though, I like Anderson Cooper. He's not perfect, and I like Tucker Carlson, but I disagree with him on a lot of political issues. I think Tucker Carlson has had some things where I'm like, oh, come on, dude, you can be better than that. Like, I don't believe he really means some of it. But for the most part, I think Tucker does a decent job. He actually defended Ocasio-Cortez recently, and I said, if you're willing to do that on Fox News, I have to believe you're an honest person, so I can appreciate that. But website-wise, Fox News as a website is fine. CNN as a website is pretty good, but Fox News and CNN can both have their bias. What I try to do is I try to use ABC, CBS, NBC, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, CNN, and check for their biases. If one organization is too far left, I'll read something on the right and then try and figure out, and those are the sources I tend to use. That's how I do it. So essentially, I'm just aggregating, and then my content is pretty much analysis at this point. The main struggle for doing on-the-ground reporting is, for one, it doesn't happen that often, and I can't just be everywhere. Like stuff that happened in France, most of the people I know who went there missed the first 2 weeks of protest, and it's also extremely expensive. So that's what the van is for. The van is going to be a news truck, essentially, that when something happens, I can drive there, I can maintain my work schedule, and then produce a new channel just for on-the-ground reporting and real conversations. So expect to see a lot of, not the same thing as what Steven Crowder does, where he does Change My Mind, but just real conversations with locals in various parts of the country and how they feel about certain issues. So I want to have real conversations with people about what affects them. Hey, you live in West Virginia, tell me what's going on. Do you like Trump? Do you not like Trump? How do you feel about the mountaintop removal? And we'll just have real conversations. And because it's a third channel, I can completely just experiment and do everything without having to worry about, like, this channel and my second channel will fund the third channel. And maybe the third channel will never be something that's really, valuable and monetizable, but it'll make interesting conversations, and I'm going to have fun doing it. That's the important thing. Gregory Horton says, would buying up the controlling shares of these publicly traded companies be better than making a new platform? No, probably not. One of the biggest shareholders of Twitter is a Saudi prince or something, so I really doubt you're going to be able to compete with that. Einar says, the alt-right got banned and created an incentive for a free speech platform that can allow them to get income as well. Patreon has effectively helped the alt-right grow. Yes, absolutely. Look, isn't it mind-blowing how you've got the Huffington Post, Vox, and BuzzFeed saying PewDiePie is promoting this channel, which happens to be, white supremacist. And then I go, dude, you're literally providing space for him too. So PewDiePie shouted out a channel and it got 12,000 subs or whatever. Then you went and got him 10,000 more by constantly writing about the guy. Take some responsibility for your own logic here, please. And then you've got Patreon effectively, riddled with hate speech, claiming they don't like it. Please, if I had to make a bet, my favorite conspiracy theory is the far left are actually far right fascists who are pretending to be left to destroy the left, to make them look bad, so that they can convince people the left has gone crazy, and then exactly what they said. Get someone banned so that a free speech platform gets made so that they can use it. And I have to wonder, when they repeatedly platform and publicize and promote these ideas, and you have to wonder too, the people on the left, they can see all of the dog whistles. That's really weird. PewDiePie, when he made that video, didn't see any of these references. He didn't understand it. He didn't know anything about it. But they did. Why is that? Well, if it knows what Nazis like, if it engages in authoritarian behaviors, if it embraces fascistic philosophies like there's no truth but power, repeatedly platforms white supremacists, then it must be a duck. Gilded Link says, we need to think platform-neutral syndication. Tech like RSS exists and would cut biased intermediaries out of the controlling discussion and audience. Misty Spillers, I didn't support you on Patreon. I should have, but did delete everyone I did support today. I feel terrible, but I can't support Patreon. I agree. Braxton Stevens, you demand, Tim. Keep it up. Thank you. Appreciate it. Stealth Creation says, what do you think the feasibility of Americans, Western Europeans being able to set up with Eastern nations, and Eastern nations, Hungary and Poland, to set up a payment processor to overcome U.S. tech monopoly censorship? I'm really interested to see what Subscribestar does. There's no reason to use some of these payment processors if they won't support you. And they've created a hole in the market where people are going to start building alternatives. Why wouldn't they? I mean, Gab is talking about getting a bank contract. Well, then if that's true, I mean, if they've effectively got their own payment processor, then it'll work. They can do whatever they want. YouTube allows alt-right red ice but bans Alex Jones. Please explain how you think YouTube isn't politically biased and allows content. Alex Jones, these people aren't being banned for breaking rules. Sargon didn't break any rules. Monkey didn't break any rules. Alex Jones, you could feasibly argue, you could technically argue did, although admittedly, I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but I have seen the comments they've highlighted where they're clearly metaphorical. You know, I'm not going to repeat them, you know, lest they use it against me and take things out of context. But Alex Jones was speaking metaphorically and, like, you know, I don't know. A lot of people don't take him seriously. Like, they don't think he's seriously calling for, like some of these things. But Alex Jones was taken down because media organizations targeted YouTube and were threatening their advertisers. And this is exactly what the activists do. It's not about politics. Why is it that none of these activists targeted Patreon when Sargon was on there for years? Something weird is going on, isn't it? James Beach says Kyle Kalinske released a video on the banning of Sargon. The point he made is left should be concerned too, since Patreon may change on a whim. Exactly. Look, if they contacted me and said, "Listen, man, we're in a huge problem with our business partners, and what Sargon did puts us in a position where we have to do something about it," I would have said, "Okay, I hear you, man. That's Sargon said some bad stuff. I understand what he was trying to do. I don't think it worked all that well." Instead, what they did was they doubled down and they lied. And Sargon never broke the rules. And so they're trying to enforce rules that don't exist. And that means any one of us could be gone like that. Any one of us they could come to you and say, by the way, there's a new rule called the mulligan rule that we have the right to mulligan your channel and reset it to 0. It's not on the website, but, you know, we do this. Yeah, like I said, Matt Christensen, we deal with creators on an individual basis. Oh, that's what you're saying. You allow hate speech, just not from Sargon. That's what that means. Sure. Shannon Constantine Logan, thank you for the super chat. Big LC says, Jack Conti. I can't read it the way he wrote it. And then they just bumped me all the way down again. Okay, come on. The hidden problem is the pedo network and brownstone operations. All of these Silicon Valley CEOs are compromised and blackmailed. Well, I don't think there's a grand conspiracy like that, but I certainly believe that there is a growing problem among certain groups on the left that are putting children in questionable positions, and it's getting pretty damn freaky, to say the least. James Beach says, "You got my first and second super chats ever. Thanks, Tim." No, thank you. I appreciate that. T. Renee says, "Didn't Naomi get banned from Patreon for doxing journalists? I disagree with the decision, but that would be a direct violation of their TOS. Yes, absolutely. And it's questionable, like, whether or not it was a doxing, because I think she claims the information was already public or something. But the bigger issue is that, okay, she made a mistake, she paid her price, she went to Subscribestar, and she went about her business doing sexy cyborg stuff. And they still came after her for no reason. Why would you ban her? She didn't do anything. She has nothing to do with your fight. It's because you don't care. It's because these people do not care that they hurt innocent people. Like we saw with the Marines being beaten up. There was a Jewish man leaving a bathroom in Philly who got beaten up by Antifa. Yes, because they don't care about hurting innocent people. The Bastard says nothing should be banned, limited, or censored. I disagree. I think there are reasonable limits. Like, I read something where the judge who said you can't yell fire in a theater, it was a mistake. But for the most part, I believe there are reasonable restrictions. And like, it's easy to be reasonable, right? I don't think offensive words should be banned. I'm surprised that we've entered a world where the internet used to be this free and open space where people said the most ridiculous things, and now it's become this puritanical dystopia where porn is being banned. It's insane. Matthew Aldaco says, "Have to disagree with you. My friends would take my last Pepsi and then laugh. Then we'd fight and play Xbox or something. Also, I like Pepsi. Woodchuck says Tim likes Pepsi. Unsub. I actually don't. I don't drink soda. I drink, my favorite thing is right now? Deer Park. They make these flavor waters. And what is it? It's pomegranate lemonade. Man, that's like my favorite. I'm not a big fan of really sugary drinks. I'm not a big fan of sugar at all. Matt Field says, all of you go to Patreon, go to the search bar, search for N-word, thousands of results, hypocrites. Thousands! I kid you not. It's ridiculous how big it is. I don't know if it's thousands, but I saw like 8 pages or something. It probably just goes on forever. Patrick Seguin says, you should debate Richard Wolff on socialism. Don't know him. I'm not a debater. I had someone on my channel where we had a discussion. It wasn't meant to be a debate. I don't necessarily know if debate's the right answer, but I have no problem conceding points if I don't know about it. If someone says to me like, oh yeah, Tim, well, what about the right doing this? Like, what about the far right? The far right make up more terrorists in the United States in the past 12 years. I'll be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen those stats too. Okay. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. I've read the same stuff. What's your point? And I think that's one of the big issues with debate is you'll immediately have people say, no, here's why that's not true. I'll be like, oh, sure, fine, whatever. I see your source. I'll recognize your source. Now give me your point. Like, I don't know if debate's necessarily the right answer. It's more of like a discussion. Call people out and make them recognize their faults. Do the same for me, whatever. Yumena Maisai. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it. Dashcam Sam says, Dan Bogino discussed Sargon today on his podcast. This is a BFD. Really? Hiram says, love the channel, great for news while shaving. Hey, appreciate it. And for many of you, if you might not be aware, on my second channel, every day is a playlist. So I do 3 videos on my second channel every day, sometimes 4, and they will always be in a playlist called, like today is called EP period DEC 17. So episode December 17th. So for those of you that want to watch all 3 in a row, at 6:30, you can just start because it's 6:15, 6:30, you can just click the playlist and it'll play through all of them while you're shaving or, working on your car or, doing the dishes, whatever. Hiram says, love the channel. Just read that one. Geeks and Gamers. Oh, is that you? I was just told you mentioned Geeks and Gamers. I appreciate that, Tim. Keep up the good fight. Man, Jeremy. Hey, appreciate it. There's Geeks and Gamers popping into the super chat after getting shouted out. Lothron Prime says, I thought Patreon wasn't going to comment on individual creators. I think they're in damage control mode for sure. That's actually an interesting point. Didn't they say they don't comment on creators? And then they issued a public statement on it? Oh, so weird, isn't it? So weird. Party Almcibi says, 4chan Biz is right. Hedge with crypto. Ian Hobb says, nothing from Jack Conte on Twitter since mid-November on vacation. On the outs, hijacked by Trust and Safety Team, lied. He was DMing me. And I know that some people have talked to him directly. Sven Erickson says, not true how. Bitcoin went from 1,500 to 22,000 in a few months. How is that not volatile? I don't know. I don't know if you're referring to me, but it absolutely is volatile. Maybe I misspoke. That's why I say convert all of your currency out of crypto, but use it as a means to transfer value. So that's why I said 80-20. Because if you're holding 1 Bitcoin, you take out, 0.8. Convert that to cash. You'll have your cash. You can put it in your savings. You can put it in silver or something more stable. I'm not saying silver is stable. You can put it whatever you think is stable. And then that 20% is going to go up or down. If it goes up, you want that. It's a risk. If it goes down, well, you didn't lose that much, right? So it's definitely volatile. It's been volatile since its inception. Oh, no, we got another jump down. Stop doing that. Justin Four says, how long before the pool of non-heretical users becomes so small that enforcing the censorship becomes unsustainable for these financial companies? The pool will become so small that they themselves will have box themselves into a corner of a tiny group of people, and we'll all be on the other side playing video games, using our own services, and being like, oh, whatever happened to those weird authoritarian banny type people? Oh, they banned everyone. Right. If you ban everyone but yourself, eventually you didn't ban anybody. Get it? If everyone's banned, then no one is, if no one's using your platform. Nathan Shaw says, where do you think McInnes will end up? He vibed with Alex Jones the other day. Well, his channel's back. I think it's really funny when you look at Gavin's old content. He's hanging out with tons of celebrities. Sarah Silverman. Who else? David Cross. Those people are friends with Gavin. What does that mean? But Gavin used to make just like funny comedy videos on YouTube. I mean, he worked for Vice. And then he got caught up in this whole culture war thing where he look, whether or not you like the guy, he went overboard, definitely. He said things that he says are jokes. Yeah, no, even Nick Monroe had a really great thread about this saying, I can understand why some of these are out of context and jokes, but Gavin definitely needed to calm down and pull back because he said some straight up violent things, like told people to do things. Sure, you can call them jokes, but if someone can't differentiate and sees it out of context, then I don't think you can tell the difference. I can say something similar for the mistake Chapo said. I understand, Chapo Trap House went on stream and they said something that was dumb. The dude was drunk. Yeah, they should be banned for that. But, in this day and age, everyone's so hypersensitive. Max Bacon, thanks for the super chat. Obelisk Titan says, on Lake Thing, belong be all, love by none Plato. Max Bacon says, rare, appreciate it. Exploding pretty artwork. Tim, are you prepared for the great waifu apocalypse of 2019? I don't know what that is, but it sounds scary. Eric says, sparkling water is flame. Yeah, dude, I have like 5 different flavors of sparkling water. I'm not a big fan of soda. I don't like it. It's got stuff in it, I used to just drink filtered in spring water because it's like the healthy thing to do, and unsweetened tea. And then I started buying these sodas. They're not sodas, it's just flavored sparkling water. We call them, my friends jokingly call them lady sodas, because if you've ever seen like LaCroix, which is like one of the most popular ones, it's like very popular among millennial women. So my friends would call them lady sodas. I think that's funny. And my friends are women, by the way, so it's not sexist. Or maybe it is, I don't know, don't blame me for it. Rompot, excuse me. Rompot Mechanico says, I knew porn would get banned. That's why I have a 3 terabyte hard drive. Not enough. You need more. I'm kidding. And I just got bumped again. Come on. It's really annoying when... There we go. Andrew Thompson says, hey, Tim and Sargon, if you're still here. Tom Woods talked with Naomi Brockwell about Bitbacker.io, a Patreon replacement. I think I saw that. I think someone sent me Bitbacker.io. I'm going to check that out. That's interesting. Zanzi says, whatever happened to your Culture War podcast? Scheduling is a nightmare. Traveling is a nightmare, and it was extremely burdensome trying to go places to do these podcasts every Sunday and then trying to maintain a schedule while trying to find breaking news. And so ultimately it became harder and harder to schedule people. We sent out dozens of emails and we would get back like one response, and then it would be like, we can do Saturday, we can do Wednesday. Dude, I can't travel Wednesday. And so I was like, okay, I got to build this van. So I actually moved. There was a change in scenery, and now I have my little corner. The room's actually really big, by the way. Like the room that I'm in, I have a huge projector screen with the news playing right now. But I have this small area cornered off behind me where you can't really see how big the room is. But moving slowed things down, and then we actually had some conversations scheduled for the past few months, and then it's just like, okay, holidays are coming, things are gummed up. I need to get this van built so that I can just drive to whatever city, do my work in the van with the production studio, because I'm going to have monitors, I'm going to have an editing machine, there's going to be a shower and a bathroom. That way I can go on short road trips. You'll be able to live in it. It's, a lot of people do those live vans. It's not one of those. It's just going to be something to where, like, if we want to drive a day straight, then we don't have to stop at a hotel or something. But once we get to LA, we'll get a hotel, but I can still work in the van for general news content. And that's when we can start picking up production again. And the Culture War podcast is not over. We just have to basically get a more efficient means of travel and content production, and that's what this van is for. So the van exists, I have it. Now I just need to find somebody who can build it. I've got a guy who's been talking to me. We have a sheet, a Google Doc filled out with some of the ideas. So far we haven't moved on it yet, and it's already halfway through the month, so I don't know if it's going to happen. But I'm looking for someone who knows how to do a van camper conversion. It's a cargo van with a high top, and we're going to convert it into a production studio. So that means it needs insulation, flooring, it needs shower installation, it needs the works. But then there's going to be, I'll probably be on the road for the most part. Still probably staying at hotels, but then I'll be able to just keep working from the road without having to think about it. And it's temporary living. Some people were like, why would you want to live in a van? I'm like, I wouldn't. Some people would, that's cool, not my thing. It's more like an RV, you go on a short vacation with it, but this will be for work. Woodchuck says, Tim likes Deer Park, unsub, yeah, and Poland Springs. Now, admittedly, activists, I think, are angry about how these companies function. I think Poland Springs is one of the evil ones, I'm not sure. But Poland Springs has a raspberry lime. That's good stuff. Josh Martinez says, bad news. Doesn't look like Patreon is actually feeling a hit. They are. They definitely are. What a lot of people don't realize is that Patreon is, look, as Patreon becomes bigger and bigger, they care less and less about specific creators. But I assure you, there are investors calling the CEO right now saying, what the hell is going on? Well, that's my assumption. Sam Harris pulling out is a big deal. It's gotten write-ups in the press. If you're an investor, if you're a firm that's working with Patreon, you're going, whoa, dude, what's happening? They're willing to excise these people from Patreon. Okay, then we need an alternative, plain and simple. So is Patreon taking damage financially? Yes, they are. Is it the end of the world for Patreon? No, not really. Is it bad? It's really bad. Because they have to answer to investors and make sure that they have an opportunity for market expansion. If Patreon cuts off moderates and conservatives, who is left? Patreon will simply be a niche site for activists. That is bad because they are not a big four. They are a small company. They are not nearly as powerful as Facebook or Twitter. They need everyone they can get, otherwise they go stagnant and they fall into recession. They are not powerful enough yet. This is bad for them. And with Jordan Peterson pulling off and all of his supporters leaving, then you see Geeks and Gamers. I'm seeing other people who have nothing to do with any of the culture war stuff taking a hit. I've canceled my support of other patrons who do gaming content and things like that. And I've messaged them saying, hey man, can you set something? Look, imagine this. How many people do you support that are political? A handful. How many other people do you support that are just gamers or movie reviews or just fun content? Maybe a couple. I only supported content creators. I only supported people who made awesome stuff. One of those people, who I'm going to give a shout out to, is David Firth, because David Firth makes some of the best content on the internet, period. Okay? Go to David Firth's YouTube channel and just watch. His videos are incredible. They're creepy and gross, and it's awesome and funny. Unfortunately, I'm no longer supporting his work because I've pulled off support for him. I've messaged a few of the people I support saying, if you set something else up, I'll consider you supporting you there, and I've done that. I've moved over for other people, but see what happens. These people have no intention. They have no idea what's going on. Because I, as a patron, said, I'll support you elsewhere, they've now jumped to alternative platforms because they don't want to turn business away. Patreon does want to turn business away, and that means everyone who supported Sargon, everyone who was negatively impacted by the pulling out of Sargon's supporters, it's rippling across the board. I was not banned. I've broken no rules. But now I am advocating for people to leave so I can continue supporting them. What happens then? That creator says to their fans, oh, I know some people aren't using Patreon, so I'm also on this website. I've also set up a PayPal, and that's bad for Patreon across the board. Sven says, I said crypto is volatile, and you replied, not true, hence my comment. My mistake. High Impact Vlog says, Tim, I've tried to contact you multiple times on Twitter about all us content creators with substantial subs and views getting together and uniting against this. Why no reply? I followed a ton of people, so apologies, but I get tons of messages and people tweeting at me all the time, and I can't respond to all of them all the time, but I'll check. Stephen just jumped again. Stephen Caldill says, this is to help check out the new van. Also, everyone should be checking multiple sources on every story. Best advice of giving tonight. Absolutely. Like, don't just watch my video and think you've got all the answers, because I can only tell you what I see. So watch multiple people. I always recommend watching people on the left and the right. A couple people that I recommend on the left. I think ContraPoints does a pretty good job, but that's more like more like arguments. So I think if you like Sargon, you might like ContraPoints and get more of like an honest left-wing perspective. I'm not saying Contra is always right. I just think when it comes to an honest discussion about the perception of Antifa and the left versus the right, Contra is more willing to be rational about the perspectives and poke holes. I think Contra does a fantastic job. David Pacman is pretty good. I think David has his faults, but of course I do. When I see David say something that's incorrect, it frustrates me. But I know that I say things that are incorrect too, and it probably frustrates people on the left. So I typically do recommend David because I think he's genuine and honest, and he has talked about the dangers of the regressive left and all that stuff, though he's critical of the term. I think David's a pretty good dude who tries to be honest. But, he's not perfect, nobody is. When I was at Mythicist, I shouted out Contra and David Pacman, and people booed me, and I laughed, and I'm like, I don't care if you don't like them. I still think you should watch them, even if they're wrong, because two reasons. For one, get out of your bubble. It's dangerous. The other reason, too, is know what the other side is like. Well, that's basically the same thing. Being in a bubble is dangerous, and you should know what other people are thinking, whether they're right or wrong. So watch their videos. I watch David Pacman. I want to know what he's talking about because I feel like I miss out on certain. I don't want to miss out on certain perspectives. So I will watch Kyle Kalinske sometimes. I actually think he does a pretty good job, but there's been some things where I'm like, I don't believe you. David Pacman I've seen be wrong a couple times, but that's normal. I'm wrong too. Maybe I'm wrong more often than he is. I think David typically tries to be honest. You don't have to agree. I like watching his stuff to just make sure I'm not missing out on any perspectives or general understanding of certain current events. And I also think it's important to understand how they feel, people who are in more of the progressive bubble feel. I would say if I'm in a bubble, there's like a libertarian centrist bubble that I would probably more likely to be in, but I go to extreme efforts to make sure that I'm getting the fringe left and the fringe right and the moderates and the conservatives. So I follow some people who are like diehard Trump supporters, people who are like moderate conservative. I follow some people who are alt-right. I follow a bunch of Antifa people. I probably follow Antifa people more than anybody else. And I just try to make sure I mix everything up. You'll notice on my second channel, sometimes I read Daily Wire, sometimes I read Vox. Plain and simple. The Cobra Viper says, give blood skateboard. Sorry, nothing meaningful to add, but here's a $5 for the cause. Appreciate it. Ketogenic knowledge. Love your channel, Tim. Don't let these hecklers get you down. On a side note, which audio video tech do you use looking to use better video quality? I have this microphone. I have no idea what it is. It says AKGP220. It's actually, my brother's letting me use it. And so I've been using it consistently because my audio is kind of bad. Because this room's big. It's like there's no attic. So it's just like basically I'm above my garage. It's nice in here. It's a living space, but it's echoey. So I'm using this mic my brother gave me. And then I use the Sony RX, the RX 106. Which is what I use. It's a really great versatile camera that I use for basically everything. So maybe that works for you. And then I have an interface. I use Adobe, the Adobe suite for everything because it's a subscription for like $20. And then I get this great software and I've got to spend a lot of money on it. Everett Beatty said, keep up the good work. Hard work and a hefty pair will get you far. That's true. Miguel Flores says, sweet, beautiful Tim, perfect in every aspect. My God, Emperor Trump bless you. Are you a saint of his holy empire? I would say I'm not. Because I didn't vote for him, I won't vote for him. I don't like what I don't like about Trump. I've gone into pretty decent I would say great detail because it for a period every video I would rag on him for a bit. I'll give him credit where credit is due. I think North and South Korea is a huge issue for me because I have family. My great grandfather came from a city in the north, and I would like to one day be able to visit the land of my ancestors. I've been to Seoul, awesome experience. So that may be the most important thing that's happened for me throughout the entire presidency of Trump so far. Most people aren't focused on everything. When Trump started working on the North Korea issue and relations started improving, I'm like, dude, that's epic. And that's I care about that more than anything else. I'm sure there are other Korean people who are more Korean than I do disagree, sure, whatever. The point is it meant something to me. But Trump is the easiest way to explain it without going overboard is that Trump is everything wrong with our culture, and Hillary was everything wrong with our government. And those were reasons why I didn't like either of them. Trump would use insults as a point of debate. He would go up and say, Lion Ted, disgusting Kasich, little Marco. And that's I can see how those tactics work in terms of swaying people to believing you're better than they are. I just don't like it. I think it's bad in the long run for, look, we're in a culture war. And I think Trump Trump absolutely contributes to that to a certain degree. And don't get me wrong, the media loves to pump out nothing but nonsense about Trump all day and night. And the funny thing is, I have no problem criticizing Trump for his potty mouth. I think it's a bad thing. I don't know a whole lot about whether his policies are going to be good or bad in terms of domestic taxes and stuff like that, because I'm just not entirely sure. I don't know enough about economics. I can tell you his foreign policy has been pretty bad. Missile strike on Syria, commando raids in Yemen, drone strikes in Yemen, weapons deals with the Saudis. Don't like any of it. And that's typically where I go because those are extreme issues that can result in literally the end of the world. But the media pumps out so much insane garbage that I have to defend the guy. And it's really funny because me and other center-left types are like, dude, stop making me defend Trump. Can't we just rationally disagree with his use of language, with his foreign policy, which follows in the footsteps of Obama, admittedly? Can't we disagree with some of the tax cuts and the increase in the national debt? Isn't that a calm and rational argument to have? Can't I I can sit down with a Trump supporter and say, let's talk about the national debt. This is a serious issue. Right now, I believe we're only paying off the interest on the debt, and we're facing severe economic issues where now federal employees aren't even getting raises. And they'll respond back to me, interesting, but in the long run, X, Y, and Z, B, and C, we have a discussion, plain and simple. I'm not going to froth at the mouth and start throwing bottles at people because I'm like, Trump's the worst, fascism is back. No, it's not. Trump's just a president. He's got policies I don't agree with. I extremely disagree with the foreign policy of the United States, but it's not unique to Trump. I don't like the way Trump speaks. Not going to vote for him, so I don't need to go on that. I'm not going to be I am not a saint of his holy empire, not in the least bit. Kathy says, season's greeting, Tim. So glad I discovered your channels this year. Hope you have a great 2019. Despite the culture war, there is hope. Yeah, I think so. The Thing says, how big is your screen? Mine's 10 foot for gaming. My screen is probably 12. And it's not as big as it could be, but the wall can't be any bigger. So, and man, is it so awesome. They're not super expensive. Admittedly, I think it's like $700 or $800 for like a 1080p from Best Buy. Now there is one reason I got it. It's because I want to screen videos with good audio, because documentary production has been a big part of what I do for a long time, and I fully intend to keep doing that. The van needs to be built. Once the van is built, I want to have a screening room where we can have like maximum audio, so we can really like it's a normal thing for production studios, basically. You know, like every video outlet's going to have some kind of screening room where you can get a full feature experience with surround and all that stuff, and that's what I want to do. That's what I want to have. Admittedly, it's really amazing when you're playing video games on it. It's like freakishly weird. It's actually hard to play first-person shooters on a projector screen, though. Cameron Alderman says, how to defend Western values in Portland. Yeah, I don't know. If your mayor's not going to do anything about it, you've lost already. I'm not trying to be a dick. Bill Rice says, Hard Bastard live on YouTube. News dissemination. Heart Tim, thank you. Gugeno says, it just jumped me again. What happened to Subverse? Once the van is built, the content that I produce on the ground will likely be on Subverse. So it's just an issue of, without the van, it's extremely difficult. It's like climbing a rock wall with no supports and nothing, just like free climbing, whatever it's called. With the van, it's going to be like having one of those automatic, belt things, whatever they're called, auto belay, and having things to climb up on, like a ladder, basically. The van will make it much easier to expand and do more on-the-ground content and field reporting and interviews and podcasts. So, Reginald McIntosh says, the craziest thing about all of this, the non-politically initiated, especially in non-Silicon businesses, are completely unaware how ideologically driven some of these tech giants are. I have a few family members high up in business that laugh it off when I bring these things up to them. Yup. People tell me, it's not mainstream. I'm like, Kirsten Gillibrand just tweeted the future is intersectional. Intersectionality is the mirror image of the alt-right. Somebody tweeted this, it was hilarious. They said intersectional feminism is left-wing white nationalism. And I laughed because it's like, I totally get what they mean. I get it. It's literally identity politics, identitarianism. It is creating government and policy based off people's identity. Uncooked says, Patron won't put money over politics. Zero Cipher says, burn offensive books, revisionist history, follow our rules or be punished. Segregation, destroy your opponent's lives, censor everything. Now guess, am I describing the far left or Nazi Germany? That's what I said in my video today about the Antifa guys beating up Latino Marines while screaming racial slurs at them. If you want to ask me who the Nazis are, and you show me that group, I'm going to be like, well, probably the guys in all black beating the minorities while screaming racial slurs, right? Oh no, the left thinks they oppose the Nazis? Yeah, how about that? I will list, Tyshan says, the far left and alt-right are both equal racist and pro-slave. KKK and BLM both want cop out of black communities for different reasons. Purvey says, Tim is livid and justifiably so. TF is Patreon doing. Gawker's death rattle. He seeks facts to fit narratives rather than let facts dictates. Dangerous to trust people who decide to be tactically ignorant. I think maybe talking about David or... Blue Yeti is great. Thank you, Sven. Anonymous says, we got spoons for sticks, but what do we use for you? I don't know. Colonel Kurt says, please take my money. And Dustin says, Bill Nye, the pedo guy. I'm not sure about that one. But I will say, I have read through and gotten to all of the Super Chats up to now. I think, look, the main goal of this video was just because I was so angry, I tweeted like 5 things back to back to back, and I'm like, I better just do a stream. I'm gonna wrap up because we're about an hour and 20 minutes. I will read any more Super Chats that come in for the time being. Patreon is lying. I feel comfortable saying that because if they really did take hate speech seriously, they would have banned the thousands of pages using racial slurs, which I have, well, I don't know if it's thousands, I don't want to say that, but someone mentioned thousands. I have found many, many pages full of racial slurs, Holocaust denial, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, self-harm, advocacy, glorification. They don't care about this. Like, how are you going to convince me they care about this, but they don't actually ban it? You want to say that if they want to claim that they care about hate speech, but they don't ban hate speech, then I think they're liars, plain and simple. So I think one more Super Chat came in, and then I'll just do a couple of quick shout-outs. Yeah. Gawker's after all says, yeah, it was about Pac-Man tactically ignorant. I wouldn't assume that. I don't think David's a bad guy. I don't think he's lying or trying to admit anything. I think he's just. There are people who make the same accusation about me. They make the same accusation about Sargon. So when I watch, Pac-Man, when I watch Kalinsky or Contra, and they say something that I'm like, I don't agree with that, I just go like, yeah, like I understand the feeling now that people have when they watch my videos and they disagree with me. So it's important to believe in yourself, right? So when I watch and say, I know that David's wrong on this particular issue, but I'm not going to get angry about it. I need to hear what he has to say to understand why he thinks these things, so we can have a real, we can actually grow. And that's what I think is particularly important for me as a channel that frequently criticizes the left to tell you, like, follow these people. Because as much, someone asked me, why don't I talk about crazy right-wingers? And I'm like, dude, they're gone. They lost. No, I'm not kidding, man. The Google search for political violence, and it's all the left on the right. Do you want me to make videos about, like, I made a video about the far-right dudes, the white ethno-nationalists who got arrested. I made a video about it. I made a video about Charlottesville. I'm not intentionally trying to constantly criticize the left, but the left is the one dominating the headlines over this. I always covered on-the-ground, street-level politics. So, I don't know what else to say, The latest news in terms of Antifa and street violence was Antifa beating up innocent people. Is that on purpose? No, it's just the news. Like, that's what happened, right? And I'll admit this. If I miss something, then yes, that is a fault. And I try not to. But when those 4 dudes from that white identity group got arrested and charged with felonies, I made a video about it. And the people who watched my videos were like, good job, thanks for reporting this. It's like, maybe the reality is the far left is violent. And they dominate the headlines with their violence. And this is what I explained. Sure, you can find instances of far-right extremists, whatever that means, traditionalists, or I don't know necessarily. It's a nebulous term for the most part. You can find a lot of examples of lone wolf extremists committing these extreme acts, but they're rare. When they happen, they're extreme, so we talk about it. But almost every day there's a story about some kind of left-wing harassment or violence. The left favors low-level terror, and the ultra-nationalistic, like white identitarian types, tend to favor extremist short burst events, right? I'm not saying one is worse than the other. I think they're all bad. I'll tell you what, though. When there is a major event from an ultra-nationalist, white identitarian, far-right, whatever you want to call it, sovereign citizen types, I'll do a video about it. When Antifa goes and beats up Marines, I made a video about it. It wasn't on my main channel, because my main channel is typically like the paramount issue of the day. And my second channel is issues that I didn't think I could do a full like breakdown analysis of, but want to talk about things related to it. So, Uncooked says, keep doing what you're doing, Tim. Appreciate it. Steve B says, Newport MN has a place that specializes in the work required to get your van up and running. It's marketed as a camper. Dale's Place, though. I'm on the East Coast. That's the problem. So I've tried looking for East Coast companies. There's one in North Carolina, I think. Maybe I could drive down there, but man, it's like, that's the problem. If I could travel that easily, I would, and I wouldn't need the van. So I'm trying to find just a general contractor, because I'm like, look, it's not the most complicated thing in the world. It's electrical wiring, it's buying some batteries, you're figuring out how to do our own shower in a small space. Not that difficult. Anyway, I gotta wrap up. I'm exhausted. I needed to rant. I've calmed down. You may have noticed I'm calm. This is therapy for me, right? I'm angry, and what do? I yell at my camera. I'm not gonna make another video because I've done a bunch of videos, but I am gonna come up and talk about the issue and express my anger and outrage, because I feel like they are playing me. I don't like being used. I don't like being treated like an idiot. That's what I feel like Patreon is doing. Super Grimmy says, timcast.com/donate, best way to support now. It is, or channel memberships. PayPal really is the best, because PayPal takes only a processing fee. Patreon actually would take their cut plus a processing fee, so PayPal really is the best. Except PayPal triggers your donation on the day that you sign up, so everything comes in kind of randomly for me. It's rather difficult. Whereas with Patreon, whenever you sign up, they charge you exactly on the first, so I know how much is coming in perfectly, and it's much, much easier. Like, it's really hard to plan, but it's no big deal. Like, it is what it is. PayPal ultimately will save money because the fees are lower, so, it works. Gajenjo says, keep up the good work, Tim. You guys, I've got a second channel. If on my main page, you'll see on the right, there's recommendations. You've got the Subverse channel, which will kick back up soon. You've got my second channel, which I believe says like Timcast News or something. My brother's there. Subscribe to all of us. If me and my brother, if you like our stuff. My brother does comedy. It's definitely not like this. But look at those channels. Subscribe to my second channel. youtube.com/TimcastNews, Twitter, Minds, M-I-N-D-S. It's time for me to go chill out. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. If you're not subscribed to this channel, do it. New videos every day at 4 p.m. Then I do 3 videos, 6, 6:15, and 6:30 on my second channel. And hopefully, when this van is done, it might increase to 4, so it'll be a full hour, plus on-the-ground conversations and other breaking news stuff. Thanks for hanging out, and I'm going to lay back and watch cartoons or something now that I've calmed down and just want to relax and forget about the lies and the nonsense. I'll see you next time.